Hey everyone, this is Chris McKenna here. I'm the lead organizer for Boston New Technology. I would like to welcome you to our Boston New Technology BNT 113 event where Boston Tech comes together to help conquer COVID-19. It's a virtual summit, a little longer than our usual events. And we have 13 amazing speakers lined up for you to be inspired. And I'm just gonna ask you to sort of bear with us actually, because this is quite new as far as a broadcast tool that we're using here on StreamYard. And I'm going to share my screen real quick. All right. So I hope everyone can see me. I want to make sure that this is working. If someone could just post a comment and say, hey, I saw your slides, that'd be great. So we'd like to ask you to help us out with a few things at this event. I hope everyone is doing well in these difficult times. Just want to tell you a little bit about BNT before we go into things. We are a not-for-profit community-based organization that focuses on helping local businesses launch and grow, and especially startups. And we have 2 to 3 not-for-profit or free events every month. And we're doing all our events virtual now, of course. And there's no cost for speakers at our events. So founders are welcome to sign up for our startup showcases, and we have other events that we need speakers for as well. So just contact me if you have any interest. And our events are geared towards connecting the community and offering inspirational and educational content. So we hope that you enjoy this, and we just have a couple of simple requests of you. If you could please share this broadcast on Facebook, there should be a share button right there where you're watching. And also if you can share your comments and questions for the speakers right there on Facebook or even on YouTube, we will see those comments and questions and we'll use them for the Q&A. And finally, share any learnings and screenshots with your networks, your social media, and use our BNT 113 hashtag. Boston New Tech will retweet you. And I'm going to just actually ask Chuck to introduce himself if I can figure out how to bring Chuck in. Chuck is our resident speaking coach. And Chuck, welcome.
Nice to be here. Do you want me to share the screen now and or just give a hello?
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen. And
yeah. Give me a second to pull this thing back up here. Here we go. Are we viewing it?
I can't see it yet, Chuck.
Can you see me? Can you see the screen?
I can see you, but I don't see that you're sharing it yet.
Oh, let's see. Hold on here. Let's see. Do I have to hit? Okay, stand by. Let's do something here. There we go. Share screen. There we go. Give me a moment. Let's see. I'm sharing and
there we go.
And let me do that. And this. How's that?
Great.
Okay. So there I am in my pre-COVID look, where how most people remember me. We all look a little bit different now, but I mean, when you think about it, welcome to this world that none of us could have predicted. Through the years, it's been a treat for me to work with so many startups, helping them to focus on strategies and how to tell their story simply and clearly and persuasively. And it's been great to be a sponsor and partner with Chris and with Boston New Technology. And it was great working with tonight's lineup of presenters. So tonight's program, for me, reflects probably the best of what the innovation community has to offer. The way we reinvent, the way we are pretty good at pivoting, finding opportunities and responding to challenges, having an immense amount of vision, and the way we spend our time sharing ideas and collaborating. So in this pretty terrible world, when you think about it, who better than us to, have bold ideas and to be the ones who are out there and to reinvent the world. So part of this has been, I've seen a lot of people really turn a lot of their attentions outward, to be really selfless, using talents and their skills to solve some pretty unique problems. And at the same time, perhaps finding some opportunities for themselves. But I've also seen that it has been this really great opportunity to have organizations look inward, focusing on things they really didn't have time for. So what this has now given me a chance to do is be happy to announce a launch of a global accelerator that you may be interested in. It's going to be a bit different than the accelerator programs that are out there. Then this is one that is really focusing very specifically on some key areas that entrepreneurs need. There are great programs out there, so we're not going to compete. They go wide with lots of entrepreneurial concepts, but where they go wide, we are actually going to go fairly narrow in a few really key areas that pretty much cross-cut everything that we do. And these are areas of strategy and communication and story, identifying stakeholders and how to reach them, capturing attention, being crystal clear, something people have a very difficult time doing sometimes, being memorable, standing out, driving action, not making the mistakes that many startups do. So in this 4-week program, you'll be introduced to pretty much all the resources that you're going to need, and you'll be able to actually develop them in this program under expert supervision, whether it's your branding, your persona, all of the decks that you need, taglines, demos, outreach, also building community and meeting some key people who might be helpful in this process. So each week, we're going to start out with master classes. There'll be some group activities, individualized one-on-one mentoring, a library of some pretty impressive thought leaders, building some community, ending with a demo night and a competition, and some additional follow-up. But this accelerator is going to be different because it will not only provide what typical accelerators do in terms of training, but you will also have access to expert consulting with a group of experts who are the leaders in the field, in design, in writing, in concept development, in branding, who actually become, for this 4-week program, part of your team, working alongside of you. It's essentially thousands of dollars worth of experience and many hours of work as part of your team. So at any rate, I don't want to take a whole lot of time. You're going to find more information on this on the website, chuckgoldstone.com. Get in touch with us or send me an email. And just keep in mind that successful companies not only have good ideas, but they're the ones who have the skills to convince other people. So at any rate, I'm going to wish everyone good luck tonight. We have some terrific presenters, and just everyone stay well and stay safe. So Chris, thank you.
Thank you so much, Chuck. I also want to thank my co-organizer, Tom Maloney. I think that we ran into some limits on the StreamYard service that we're using, and he wasn't able to get into the studio here, as they call it. So anyway, I thank Tom Maloney for all of his help co-organizing the events over the years. And before we start into the program, I would also like to thank our community partners. And I'm going to try to share my screen again. And here they all are. So these are our top partners. We have many other partners, but these are our top partners who helped us with a lot of sharing about this event. And these are all organizations you should definitely check out. I won't name them all, but they're all here for you to see, and they're on BNT's website and blog. And we're all very collaborative to share these events amongst each other. And they all have newsletters you can subscribe to, so I would definitely encourage you to do that. Now I'll start the program. So I'm going to just talk a bit about topvirusinfo.com. It's a new website that I'm developing right now. Again, I'm Chris Rakenna. I'm the founder, also co-founder of Boston New Technology, and my background is in app and software development. And I came up with this venture based on a lot of work I do for BNT as far as curating content. So let's just take a look at one of the big problems a lot of us are facing right now. You guys know Pac-Man, right? Just kidding. So no, this is the knowledge problem that we're talking about. So out of all the possible knowledge, there are the things you know, and there are things you know about that they exist, but you don't really know about them. And then there are the things that you don't even know exist. So there is a difficulty to find out about the things you don't know exist. If anyone's feeling this kind of challenge these days, just tap a like on Facebook and we'll see if we get a few people who are tuned in. Who is familiar with this? Who suffers from TMI? I know I do. I think that this is a big problem because we all have too much information being thrown at us, especially now where everyone is engaging more digitally. And so how can we address some of these problems? Well, let's look at a new approach. How can we discover and learn based on our profession and interest instead of what's being advertised? And how can we access content that's highly relevant to us, not just being pushed on us? And then accessing content that's up to date. So these were some of my goals in developing this product. Now, many of you are familiar with the concept of open source software, but I'd like to introduce open source content and the Open Content Network. So this is a network I'll be launching this summer, and it's going to allow you to share your digital content for free. You can also curate collections of free content that's relevant to you and your prospects. And you can improve returns on your content investment through these new channels. So if you look at our blog, I'm gonna bring up BNT's blog if I can for 1 second. So if you go to topvirusinfo.com, I think I need to share again, sorry. I think you can't see this. All right, so you will see a huge list, over 150 resources for COVID-19 victims, families, workers, and other people who are affected. And this is just a blog post. So if you look at it, it's pretty messy. There's an introduction. And then what I did, because these lists are so long, for now, I just have hyperlinks to different areas of the post. So you can see educational information, business support, business relief, and many other topics. So this is just a very rudimentary way to organize content, but we want to make this content much easier for people to access and access what's relevant to them, and also be able to share what's relevant with their networks as well. Okay, I need to share my whole screen for you guys to see what I'm doing. So, Open Content Network is geared towards businesses who want to create collections of content and also share their collections of content. So what type of content are we talking about? Well, there's all types of digital content, but a lot of things that we will be sharing and have been sharing are obviously news and events, but also webcasts like this, podcasts, blog posts, courses, ebooks, white papers, and other resources that people are interested in that can help attract visitors to your website or your social media channels. And in our case, we have a weekly newsletter for BNT that we share quite a lot of this content, and we're looking to streamline how to do that as well. So this didn't quite work out well, but how do you share the content? Basically, you can share these collections on your websites, your email, newsletters, social media, printed media, and even other digital outlets. And I welcome you to look forward to topvirusinfo.com and opencontentnetwork.com launching soon. And I thank you and welcome any questions. So the way we are seeking questions is through the comment feed. So you guys can just post any questions you have. I'm not sure if I am seeing any quite yet, but this is a new approach. So just go ahead and post any comments on the broadcast and we'll see them so we can answer any of your questions. Chuck, ask me a question. For some reason I can't hear him.
Mute here. So you're going to be, how can we, make sure that people are both users and contributors?
So yes, a great goal of the Open Content Network is to allow people to both consume and add content to the network. So the idea is if you add something, you want it to be freely shared with everyone, and it could be just fun things like photos, that people need for their own marketing materials. There are a lot of, amazing resources that are available now, especially in this crisis that were never available before. And so you can access thousands of courses online for free right now. You can access thousands of books, and then first responders and healthcare workers have, probably hundreds of discounts. I have a few dozen of them on the topvirusinfo.com, but there's many more. And so this, limitation that I have, I only have so much time to, curate resources, is really limiting what I can offer, So if I have the community contributing as well, I'll be able to curate a lot more and offer a lot more resources to hopefully attract more visitors to my website. So let's see, there is a question here, which was good. Robert, hey. He says he understands the goal, but he's not sure how we provide relevance. So as I build this technology into more of a platform, the users will have certain questions when they sign up, as far as some very basic things like what industry do they work in, what industry do they serve, what is their professional role, general role, like if you're in marketing, if you're in business, if you're a creative person. And so once we know just a few basic things about you, we can customize the experience when you visit Open Content Network or when you visit sites that have this technology deployed. Let's see, we have some more questions. Let me just look here quick, people. Okay, Okay, Steve, so do we think these free content collections can be used like a community database? Yeah, I mean, in a sense, it definitely could. You know, one collection that I have put together on our blog was for all of our partners, and that would be, you know, an ideal collection that could be shared. You know, here are all the top communities in Boston. So, you know, people can just quickly get up to speed if they've, you know, just moved to town or, you know, are new into the startup or technology world or things like that. Um, as far as the, you know, a database or membership, maybe that is something that could be, you know, enabled around collections of content. You know, so if we, for B&T, if we have this benefit, let's say for our B&T VIP members, we can offer them exclusive collections of content that maybe have some, you know, content that's normally paid for that they get for free and things like that. And so there's certainly ties, a lot of ties really, between the users or people and the content that they want or have, because that's a great way to connect people is, you know, here's the content I have. If it's something you're interested in, then, you know, maybe you're interested in working with me and things like that. So thanks, Steve, for that question there. Let's see, what else? Howie had a question. I'll take one more just quick before we move on. So yeah, thank you. Well, as far as fake news, we can't really stop people from trying to push out fake news, obviously, but when we create these collections, they will be sourcing the content from what we call trusted sources. You know, it's really up to my decision. Like if I'm the owner of the content, I decide what's trusted. And so content can be openly and freely added to a collection, or it can require approval, whereas if I'm the owner of the collection, I have to approve it before it'll show up. So there are different ways to ensure that the content is trustworthy. So I don't want to take too much time today too, but please, you know, stay tuned to the B&T newsletter. You'll learn all about these new ventures, and you know, we'll have more updates from the other presenters as well. Do you have a thought, Chuck?
No, I was just coughing, actually. But it's not a COVID cough. It's just a.
Oh, good.
No, I think it sounds like a great idea. Right now, the glue that's holding this community together is communication, and I think that by providing as many outlets as we possibly can, you know, to help people connect to each other and even among each other. Let me just mention, take 10 seconds to mention something that people might actually be interested in. That every Wednesday, I'm doing a freebie roundtable for 90 minutes. Chris, you were there a couple of weeks ago. We normally have anywhere from 15 to 30 people, and we simply talk about ways to navigate this terrible thing. But out of it has come a lot of collaborations. We have at least 20 or 25 people now kind of working with each other and finding these serendipitous connections. So I don't have a slide for this, but if you can remember chucksroundtable.eventbrite.com, chucksroundtable.eventbrite.com. I'd like to invite, you know, people to, you know, to sit in. It's been a treat doing this, and we're really discovering that all manner of communication is so important. And who better than us to be the innovators, helping society and also helping ourselves. So thank you, Chris.
Yeah, sure, Chuck. Yeah, those are great meetings. Every week Chuck is doing that, and there's a lot to be learned and a lot of experts sharing insights and everything. So with that, actually, I'm going to ask Rowan to kick off her talk, if I can get her added now. There we are.
Hi there.
Hey, Rowan.
How's it going?
Welcome. Take it away. How do I get rid of this? Okay.
We are figuring out as we go. That's been the theme of, I think, everything recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Chris. And for everybody else, I wanted to start by introducing myself. My name is Rowan. I'm an associate editor at American Inno, and our mission is really to report on and catalyze non-traditional tech hubs. Now, you could argue that maybe at this point Boston is a bit of a traditional tech hub, but back in 2009, which is the year that Boston was founded, um, it really was not. That was the year that Mass Challenge was founded, Techstars Boston was founded, and also a time when, like now, things were economically not looking so hot. So before I go any further, I'm going to share my screen quickly. Boom. So I wanted to give some insight into what my job has been like for the last 2 months, covering coronavirus news through a startup lens. So what we do at American Inno is cover startups, and catalyze and connect the community. And that's been a little bit different since we've all been completely virtual and we've been far apart from one another. I myself have been working from home for, I think, exactly 2 months now. And Boston's innovation economy overall has really taken a hit. There are more than 24 startups and tech firms in the Boston area that have been forced to lay off or furlough workers based on Bostino's count. That includes tech darlings like Lola Travel, which is one of the first to be hit, given that they're a corporate travel startup, and Flywire, the fintech startup. It also includes unicorns, EasyCater, Toast, and Data Robot. And if you just look at the numbers, that means that thousands of people are out of work right now. Nearly 1 million Massachusetts residents have filed for unemployment in recent weeks, and investors are tightening their purse strings. But I'm not here to just give the bad news. One thing that has been consistent for me is that no one pivots quite like an entrepreneur. And at Boston, we're really trying to highlight innovation. So we kind of walk this line of, we have to report on the layoffs and the furloughs and the shutdowns because it's our mandate to give a complete overview of what's happening to our community. But we also surface the good news. We want to support and catalyze local innovation, and that means highlighting some of the pivots for good. So in recent weeks, I have profiled a handful of startups that have been doing some cool things. One of those is Nift. They are a Boston-based startup behind digital gift cards. They're currently in early conversations with local governments to provide gift cards to residents to help small businesses. They've also launched an online store to help small business owners, specifically who have been affected by COVID-19, which I think is really every small business owner, but it's especially true for brick and mortar places like pet shops and salons. There is precedent for the community economic recovery programs. Back in 2018, after the Merrimack Valley gas explosions, NIF partnered with Andover, North Andover, and Lowell to drive business to that area once shops were able to open up again. Another startup that I've been able to highlight recently is Sufa. They're based in Cambridge, and their whole thing is smart sidewalk furniture. So think benches and signs with digital displays on them. They've been partnering with a ton of Massachusetts cities and towns to get PSAs to pedestrians. Especially, I think that this is important because not everybody necessarily has access to news otherwise, but you walk on the street, you see the billboard, and you get the public health info that you need. Their technology can also track pedestrian traffic and then get that information to local public health officials so that they can see, whether people are complying with social distancing guidelines and make policy decisions based on that information. The next one I want to highlight is BioBot Analytics. Now, on our site, Bostino, I actually did not write this profile. My colleague Srividya did. They're a startup based out of Greentown Labs, the clean tech incubator in Somerville. And their technology analyzes wastewater. The company originally deployed it to detect opioid usage in communities, but they realized that they could use it to detect coronavirus. So they've been doing that over the last month or two to give officials a better sense of how much the virus has spread. Long story short, it is, quote, an order of magnitude higher than what tests have revealed, which is not exactly unexpected if you've been following the news, but it's still important information for us to have. And the last startup I want to highlight is Drafted. They're a startup that connects job seekers with hiring managers through referrals, and they've essentially developed a version of their platform that is specifically tailored to workers who have been recently laid off, so they can find work in the ecosystem and not have to leave Boston. We can keep our tech talent pool nice and close. They've also launched a newsletter called the Layoff List, which has been a source of information for me, as well as some of my colleagues, about which companies have unfortunately had to implement layoffs and furloughs in recent weeks. Now, at Boston, we're not just a news outlet. We consider ourselves to be a community partner as well. So there are a couple of ways in which we try to connect the ecosystem. Earlier this month, I published this roundup of Boston startups and tech firms that are hiring in May. We do publish a jobs roundup on a monthly basis at the beginning of the month, but I wanted to make this one a little bit more robust, given that so many folks have come under hardship at this time. So this is a roundup that I'm actually continuing to update. So if you are hiring in the ecosystem, or if you're aware of any company that is, then please reach out to me and I will update this. We've also been ramping up, as you can see, based on these publication dates, April and May. We've been ramping up our guides. So we recently published a nearly complete roundup of Boston's venture capital firms, angel investors, and other funding sources for startups. We also published what we're calling the Hub Map. It's a guide to Boston and Cambridge co-working spaces, which will be reopening in the next month. We also have an events directory. As you can see, we were able to feature tonight's event on our events directory. And if you'd like, you can go to boston.com and feature an event, or just go ahead and upload some information about your event for our approved events board. We are ourselves working on putting together a virtual event series focused specifically on the Boston job market, so do be on the lookout for that. At Boston, we also have a careers directory. So similar to the shout out that I just gave to our hiring roundup, if you have a career that you are actively hiring for, please upload it to our careers directory. And similar to events, you can also feature a job, and then that will be included in the Beat. The Beat is my baby. It is a newsletter that comes out every weekday at about 1:30 or 2 in the afternoon. I will say the time has been varying a little bit more recently, just given that there has been so much news coming in. The news stops for no man, but covering everything this innovation community has been doing has really been a huge effort for us. So the Beat is a daily 2-minute conversation in your inbox per our little banner ad. And it's basically your one-stop shop for everything that's happening. We include all of the articles that we publish in the Beat. We also include news items about funding rounds, innovators who are doing cool things, new product launches. It really covers the gamut. And of course, if you have information that you would like me to include in the Beat, then you are always welcome to pitch me. I'm at rwalrath@americaninno.com. And I know that tonight I'm going to be hearing from some startups that I would perhaps be interested in connecting with. If you think you're one of them, then please email me. My inbox is a bit of a war zone, so I may not reach out to you immediately, but I promise that I try to get back to everyone that I possibly can. So please subscribe to The Beat. Please connect with me. Just because we are all virtual and in our own homes now does not mean that we can't continue to be a robust and thriving tech ecosystem. And I'm really glad that Boston New Technology has put this on tonight, and looking forward to hearing from everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Roland. So we do have a couple of questions coming in. I'm going to put Steve's up here for you.
Great. So Steve asks, based on what you're seeing, do you think digital transformation is finally making a move in the community, especially in terms of the pivot to virtual? I do. I think that virtual events have been a big indicator of that already. And while, of course, I think there's a real desire for us all to be in person and be able to, hold a beer in one hand and a business card in the other and network in the traditional sense, I also think that virtual gives a real opportunity for people who might not be able to attend events like that to still connect with one another, and for us to be able to do things like this, like live stream, and just make everything more accessible for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Do we have any more questions that anyone wants to post quickly here? Why don't you tell us, Rowan, about upcoming events that you guys are working on?
So right now, this has not been finalized yet, but we're working on a series of events, as I mentioned, that are specifically focused on hiring in the ecosystem. So if you're a hiring manager or you know a hiring manager and you'd like to connect with us, please do reach out. That is something that is currently under development.
Okay, super. Yeah, we'll help get the word out. So keep an eye on the BNT newsletter as well and our events page. And with that, if you want to just thank Rowan, tap the like or love button right now, and we'll get ready for the next presenter. Thanks, Rowan.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, please welcome Mark Maybury.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
Hey, great.
So, good evening to everyone. My name is Dr. Mark Maybury. I'm the first Chief Technology Officer of Stanley Black & Decker. And first and foremost, let me thank Boston New Technology, Chris and Chuck, for putting on this great event. I'm the former Chief Technology Officer and Chief Security Officer at the MITRE Corporation, where I worked for about 27 years. I also spent several years as the Chief Scientist within the United States Air Force. So I've had the privilege of working both in the private sector, in the public sector, as well as now in a private company. And interestingly, in all of those activities, and on occasion in a crisis. And it was wonderful to hear from Rowan and all the great things she's doing to support the community. And I certainly am excited about hearing from the other speakers. What I'd like to do is today just share a little bit, and I'll go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully, you'll be able to see the presentations that. Let me go ahead and see if hopefully this will come up, and we'll be able to see. Let's try to control it here. Hopefully you can see that presentation. So at Stanley Black & Decker, we have been leaning in early into the sort of COVID response, recognizing as a global company with operating in 60 countries, with hundreds of facilities around the world, we've actually, unfortunately, experienced the challenge from Asia through to Europe and now into the United States. And so one of the things we've done is recognize the importance of the innovation community to help respond, but also our own responsibility. And as you can see in this slide, we have committed $10 million in philanthropic contributions for communities, employees around the world. Our purpose is for those who make the world. Many of you know of Stanley Black & Decker from one of our 500,000 SKUs. Maybe you are a user of Craftsman products, or maybe you're a user of tools from DeWalt. Or if you're in Europe, you might know other brands like Facom and other capabilities that the company has brought to market. Oftentimes people don't realize we're also a very large security and healthcare company. And also, as you'll hear about in just a moment, we also have a very massive engineered fasteners business that helps hold cars together. So what we've recognized is that we really need to help our own employees and our communities through the struggle. So we've committed $4 million to COVID-19 nonprofit organizations, especially those who are on the front line of this fight. particularly for affected communities, for example, those in elderly care facilities. We've also committed $5 million for employees for emergency relief. And we, for the first time in the history of the company, committed globally doubling the match of any employee's contribution to their local communities. A lot of people, as you know, are suffering for lack of even just food, much less medicine and or healthcare. And so we really felt it was important to allow our employees to reach out to their communities. And we've already administered about 1 million face masks. We have several million more that we're in process of getting to our frontline healthcare workers in the communities we operate. And in addition to this, for the innovation community, I thought you'd be interested in learning about what we've done in terms of our community response. And so I was honored several weeks ago that our CEO, Jim Lurie, asked me to lead an effort in a team which really has rapidly brought a number of capabilities to market to help in this fight. One of the first things, and I'll just really quickly go through these in the interest of time, but one of the first things we did is we jointly partnered with Ford and 3M and brought it really quickly to market. It actually, you can already purchase these. We're manufacturing these in the tens of thousands. Powered air purifying respirators. So you can see in the picture here, we have actually rapidly and safely re-engineered our batteries and our adapters and our chargers so that they can fit into these units, which of course need to be cleansed, as well as need to support portable protection for our frontline healthcare workers and first responders. In addition, in our engineered fastener business, 90% of the cars in the world that the folks use in the trucks, passenger vehicles or trucks, are held together by robotically inserted Stanley engineered fasteners. We produce 1 billion fasteners a year. And just in the past number of weeks, we've produced about 1.5 million fasteners, which have gone into, for example, ventilators, beds, supporting field hospitals, even into the little pinch elements that are used to manufacture and support masks. In addition, we joined with the Aerospace Industry Association and about 6 ventilator manufacturers to rapidly help support bringing our global supply chain as well as our manufacturing capacity to fight. We also have a unit, and sort of very consistent with many of the efforts that your community is involved in at rapidly accelerating various capabilities. So, for example, in Silicon Valley, we have our Stanley X organization, and we basically have taken and built a little app which was just submitted to the App Store. Basically runs right on your computer and basically can very quickly literally scan your face and in real time actually create an image such as you see on the slide here that can be exported and used to 3D print. And so if you're interested, this is an open source movement, mymaskmovement.org. You're certainly welcome to connect to that. Any of the local Boston medical folks, we've begun to connect them to. This has actually started out at Stanford with a set of doctors in Stanford. And then finally, we run an accelerator. Many of you are familiar with Techstars. We're the Techstars Advanced Manufacturing Accelerator. We've accelerated 20 companies. We're now launching a new cohort. We're just in the process of selecting the next 10, which will focus this round in artificial intelligence in manufacturing. In the last 2 rounds, we focused on 3D printing, as well as we had a focus on bio-based lubricants that are, if not recyclable, better yet, compostable. And indeed, we've already seen, as you can see in this picture on the left-hand side, a couple of our companies, Cult Dynamics in Ireland, Tridative, a company based in Spain. Cult, in their case, they've actually rapidly pivoted their 3D printing to rapid manufacture of masks, which have actually been delivered to every local community within Ireland. About 100,000 masks are being produced. And then in addition, Dynamic Green Products, you see on the right-hand side, is a company that originally was building bio-based lubricants. We've actually pivoted that company quickly to manufacture hand sanitizer. And I've got a bottle of it right here. It's not even branded yet. We're in the process of branding, but it's something that's actually already FDA certified. It actually has over 70% alcohol, so it well exceeds the 60% requirement. And it's basically something that we hope will help the community. In short, we believe that this is a time never before, is a time for entrepreneurs, for innovation. And as my boss, Jim Lurie, articulated recently in Harvard Business Review, real leaders, and that includes innovators like all of you, need to seize this opportunity and inspire and harness the imagination of themselves and of the ecosystems. And so I guess I just conclude by some lessons. Very, very important to partner with others. We know in Stanley Black & Decker, we could not have brought a PAPR to market. We've never really manufactured medical devices. And so by partnering with others, we were able to very rapidly bring these capabilities to market. Very important to pivot to these new opportunities, to have vision for what actually you might be able to contribute to help in this very important fight, because it's something that can literally save lives. And also to be driven by purpose. Our purpose is for those who make the world. In this case, we're focusing on making the world safer and more secure. So my ask of you is, if you're interested, certainly you can participate in the onlymaskmovement.org. You can reach out to that URL I shared with you. Certainly, if you're interested, we can connect you up with the Stanley TechStars Accelerator, Marty Guay within Stanley Black & Decker, and Talila Partridge from TechStars, both co-lead that effort and are in the process of articulating that cohort. So with that, I think I'll just stop sharing and wish you all well in your current environment. I hope you're safe. I hope your families are safe, and happy to answer any questions. But thank you again, Chris, for inviting us to be here.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Dr. Maybury. I'd love to take a couple questions from some folks. So actually we have one from Steve I'm going to put up here. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong one, but he thanks you.
Well, thank you, Steve. It's really an honor and privilege to be able to work with these communities, and we do our best work with others. So. So I think the question here is with AFWorks, which actually I'm quite familiar with in defense industrial. Is there more use? It's a great question. Absolutely. In fact, I think never has there been a better time for public-private partnership. The government has the capacity to set the standards, whether it be for contact tracing and or whether it be testing. I'm also privileged to lead our testing and tracing task force at the company. And, we have, it turns out, capabilities within hospitals that monitor elderly patients that actually we're now pivoting ourselves to looking at, for example, COVID tracing and tracking. So all of that can be enabled by the federal government, fostering that innovation, investing in that, but also setting the standards so that we can have comprehensive tracing. As that one example, we've seen other countries do a really good job of flattening the curve by having a combination of innovation in the private sector combined with guidance in the public sector. So absolutely, I think that partnership's critical.
Super. All right, we have one more question I'd like to show you from Sophia.
Great question. So the app right now is in a process of being reviewed by Apple to be placed in the App Store. But yes, generally, I actually have of course a version of it right now, and it's actually generated my. It's literally, as I look here, it's generating a mask. I wish I could show you my iPhone, but then you can export that 3D model and send it off to a printer of your preference to generate. And so obviously one of the custom fit to the face, but yes, that's the intent. And again, reach out to the site, and we can certainly get you connected.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Mark, and we look forward to a lot more from you and Stanley Black & Decker.
Absolutely. Be well, and good luck to everyone. Thank you for innovation.
Thank you. All right, give us just a moment here. We have, please welcome Mike Grandinetti. Can we hear you, Mike?
Yeah, can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, we can't see
Beautiful.
you for some reason, but.
All right, I'm going to start sharing. Hopefully you can see my screen here.
Okay.
And that's, okay, share screen. Beautiful. Right. Okay. There we go. Let's see if that comes up. How's that looking, Mark? Chris?
Okay. Got it.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, again, I want to just echo my own appreciation, Chris, to you and Chuck and Boston New Technology for the considerable amount of energy and passion that you've put into creating this event. I know there's a lot going on right now, so thank you for creating an event to highlight all of the great innovation taking place in the Boston community. My name is Mike Grandinetti, and I am very proud to represent the COVID-19 Challenge and to share a little bit about our story. I represent the COVID-19 Challenge as a board member. Very quickly, my background: engineer working in the Valley, ex-McKinsey consultant, C-level executive, early team member of 8 VC-backed startups here in Boston, and almost for the last 20 years, a professor and senior lecturer at MIT, at Brown, at Rutgers, and a very active mentor, including Techstars and a range of other programs. So imagine for a moment that you can't breathe and how terrifying that must be. Now, of course, some of us who have asthma or chronic respiratory conditions would be able to at least envision this. But right here in Boston, Jim Bello, a very fit, active, 49-year-old father of 3, contracted the coronavirus and spent 32 days at Mass General Hospital on a ventilator. It was an extraordinarily harrowing story that was told in the New York Times. The doctors at Mass General did everything in their power to keep him alive, and thankfully they were able to, although they were very close to losing him several times during that harrowing 32-day experience. So one of the questions becomes, why is that? And I'm sure everybody has heard the name or the word ventilators more in the last few months than they have over their entire lives. We're facing a significant equipment shortage, certainly PPE, we've heard that, but we're also facing a significant amount of shortages of key medical equipment. Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, one of the known global authorities, estimates we're about 500,000 ventilators short today, okay? And why did this happen? Well, we can do much better than this, of course, but here's one anecdote that just hints at the challenge. In 2014, Royal Philips entered into an R&D partnership with the Biomedical Advanced R&D Authority. And using US taxpayer-funded money, they developed what would be a low-cost ICU-grade ventilator. The R&D effort was successful, and it led to a $14 million contract between Royal Philips and the Department of Health and Human Services at a unit cost of $3,280 per ventilator. Unfortunately, not a single ventilator over the last 6 years was delivered from that contract. As we all know, over the last couple of months, there's been a tremendous amount of anxiety and, yes, desperation for people to get their hands on PPE, ventilators, and other critical pieces of equipment. Under the state of duress, Royal Philips renegotiated its contract with HHS, but this time at a $15,000 per unit cost, 5x the original agreement. It was egregious enough to raise concerns, and U.S. Rep. Raja Krishnamurthy, who is from Illinois, educated at Harvard with his JD, very well known for standing up for the middle class, decided that he was going to hold hearings in his subcommittee on economic and consumer policy, which is his mandate under the committee of oversight that he serves on. So, of course, these are the kinds of challenges that led to shortages. And our President of the United States, in typical fashion, on the 27th of March, tweeted, as he so often does, using all capital letters, to exhort and extol Ford and GM to get going on ventilators, and he made it very clear how important it was by adding 6 exclamation points at the end of this tweet. Well, an unknown Silicon Valley engineer who had 70 Twitter followers responded directly to the tweet, and he asked to have someone call him. His name was sent to authorities in the state of New York, and in desperation, they wired Yaron Oren Pines 70 million USD. And in 6 weeks, not a single ventilator has been delivered. And Mr. Oren Pines is not currently findable, and New York State is trying to recover the money. So we can do better than this. We have to do better than this. This is not the first time we've seen significant respiratory types of diseases and pandemics, and it certainly will not be the last. They are happening more and more frequently. At COVID-19, our goal is to close the gap between resources that exist in the world today and those that are vitally needed. Now, how are we going to do this? In my life, I have led over 150 hackathons and design sprints globally. There is nothing more empowering than providing an environment for constrained innovation by allowing teams to form, to attack a challenge with a sense of purpose, and to have some kind of friendly competition between them, to allow the best of human ingenuity and innovation capacity to flourish. Each and every time I've led one of these events, I have continued to be impressed and inspired and, yes, blown away by what we're capable of. As a validation point, we launched the COVID-19 challenge just over 30 days ago. And in those 30 days, we received 213 submissions from teams in 43 countries, and we've just narrowed down to 7 finalists. These are representatives of the 7 teams. We shared with them just last week that they were amongst the chosen 7, and they were extremely excited and proud to continue, because the next step is to take their extraordinary designs, turn them into prototypes, and very quickly move them into manufacturing. What is really remarkable are the affiliations that these team members have with specific institutions. One team is comprised of 8 deans and professors at Stanford School of Medicine, School of Engineering, the School of Applied Physics, combined with someone who is the chief scientist of NVIDIA and design engineers from the automated vehicle juggernaut Waymo. Another team is literally comprised of rocket scientists, people from NASA, designers at SpaceX, someone who has designed the Mars Curiosity rover that is roving around on the planet right now. I can go on and on, but these are people that are motivated to help the world and really responded to the call. It takes a village to run a challenge like this. We were blessed with the visionary leadership of Dr. Richard Boyer. Rich is an anesthesiology resident in his final year at the renowned Mass General Hospital. In addition to his medical degree, he also has a PhD in biomedical engineering. Rich has worked at Baxter International designing fusion pumps. He has started 2 of his own biomedical device startups, so he's no stranger to the innovation process. While he was in quarantine, because he and some of his colleagues had been exposed to the virus, they wanted to think about what else they might be able to do to help the world while they were idled. Along with his colleague, Deanna Barrigan Bradford, who was co-director, and 10 other Mass General anesthesiologists, they decided that they would launch this challenge. Along with my friend and long-term colleague, John Stevenson, a career startup tech executive here in Boston, John Nelson, a venture capitalist from Silicon Valley, and we have been honored to have a chance to provide guidance to this team as they move forward. We've also been blessed with incredibly generous sponsorship from Zymedica in the world of biomedical engineering and design, from a wide range of leading players in the engineering space, from Onshape, in GrabCAD, in Valispace, in Stratasys, the leading 3D printing capability in the world, and someone who's donated all of their healthcare service bureau 3D printing capability in service to people that are looking to innovate around COVID-19. So our vision is to reinvent the design of not just ventilators, but of all critical care ICU class medical equipment. We want to use the validated approach that we got out of the COVID challenge. We want to do it both in developed countries as well as in emerging countries as well. And we want to use innovation challenge methodology to create designs that are medically validated, very easy to use. You don't have to have a PhD as a respiratory therapist to do it, which is a real challenge for a lot of these critical care ventilators today. Open, completely royalty-free designs using standard parts, leveraging open source economics, making sure that these devices are very easy to manufacture and very affordable to manufacture, and that they are globally scalable. And we are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. So this, for us, is a labor of love. One of the participants from the OpsVent team at Stanford is the legendary Dr. David Gaba, who is a professor of anesthesiology, whose book is considered a Bible for first-year medical students, and was also an associate dean of the Stanford Medical School. When we asked each of the teams why they invested their time doing this, this was his response. If you can save just one person, you can save the world. We intend to save many people with our approach. In order to move to the next level, we are looking to raise $750,000 to do design testing of the 7 designs that we are now creating, to go through the regulatory process, to pay off operational expenses, and to get into initial production before we can hand off designs to the world. Our next speaker from the ventilator project is a person that I've had a chance to get to know. We both are comrades in arms, and that we are both looking to address the exact same problem. What I love is that we're taking different approaches to it, but we are looking to support one another in any way possible to make sure that we are meeting the needs of anybody who needs a ventilator anywhere in the world. If you have a desire to talk to me and to connect with our team about making a donation or talking about how you can support us in another way, my name, again, Mike Grandinetti. My email address at the bottom of the screen is mike.grand@gmail.com. So once again, on behalf of Dr. Rich Boyer, our founder, and the entire COVID-19 challenge team, I want to just thank you all for taking the time to allow me to share our story with you. And I wish all of you health and safety, and we look forward to updating you in the weeks and months ahead as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. I know you had a lot of material and actually went over 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
technically we
Yeah.
used our time, but I'd like to just have you answer one question actually from Steve. I'm going to put it up here.
Yeah. So what are the top highlights? I think it's a great question. And to me, the highlight is when you have a safe environment for people in which to innovate, when you give them a clearly defined challenge and they come into the room with a sense of purpose around that challenge and a high level of just synchronicity and values with their team, magic happens. The human spirit is completely capable of solving any problem it puts its mind to. And I will tell you that I'm a hackathon junkie, Steve. There's very few things in life that give me more joy than being in the middle of the chaos of a hackathon and then seeing what comes out the other side. It's bliss. Thank you for a great question, Steve.
Okay, Mike, thank you so much. We need to actually wrap up, but Mike, is amazing with all the work he's been doing and getting back to people. So do engage him if you have questions or ideas for him, and contact me if you can't find his email address or anything like that, or any of the presenters. I'll put you in touch with them. So I'm gonna transition here now, and let's see if I can bring Tyler in. Please welcome Tyler Mantell.
Yeah, there we go. I'm unmuted now. Thanks for having me up here. Yeah. Cool. Can you accept my share request so I can show my screen?
There we go.
Thank you guys. Yeah, I'm here from the Ventilator Project, and we've spent the last 6 weeks building a ventilator. Seems like 6 months, but what happened is about 6 weeks ago, like a lot of the people and everyone you'll hear talk today, we looked around and saw a bunch of problems in the world and kind of this lull in what we can do. And so we stepped up and we did something. And for us, what we're able to address is the ventilator shortage. I'm a robotics engineer. I have a robotics company by day, and I have ended up with a large network of people that were willing to come on and help me. And we looked at this ventilator shortage that we were staring down the barrel of and decided we wanted to attack it. We then looked at the market, and when you look at these large non-medical players that are coming into the space, we knew they were going to leave the moment the world opens back up and they need to make cars. The major medical manufacturers weren't positioned to address the multi-million unit gap in the world. And as we heard about earlier, sometimes they're incentivized to actually be counterproductive to making large strides in the world. And then from our perspective, we see a large gap or an area that wasn't being addressed by the universities and startups that are entering the space. And that is that they lack the experience and focus to make it through those FDA hurdles, to make it through the design for manufacturing stage and get spooled up and hit mass manufacturing quick and get these products out into the mass scale that they need to be. So Alex and I came together. My background, I'm the CEO of Water Tower Robotics. We are a water tech startup that inspects water pipes for leaks. I have a long history of being a CEO and product manager, and I am an alumnus of Techstars. We won Mass Challenge last year and got some engineering degrees from Purdue University. So any Purdue friends online. But the story is not about me. The story is about the 200 plus volunteers that have come out of the woodwork to help us get from our inception to where we are today. There's tons of engineers. We have 40 people on site. We have 20 engineers on site and a network of very senior engineers from around the world who are supporting all of the on-site efforts, getting things manufactured. We currently have 10 doctors. We have doctors on site every day. We have the business and supply chain personnel to bring our product from its inception through mass production. As we looked at the market and what was missing, we noticed we needed to make a low-cost, mass-producible ventilator. A ventilator isn't hard. But when you look at the ecosystem environment that coronavirus left us, there is major gluts and shortages in supply chains. So that second part, that mass producible in the time of coronavirus, is actually a really difficult task. And we have almost 40 people dedicated just to making sure that we can be mass producible, not just in the US, but around the world. This team put together Era, which is an easy-to-use ventilator. It's innovative in the supply chain, and it's simple to integrate within a hospital. Those are three very important things, and the ones that we haven't touched yet are it's easy to use and simple to integrate. As you heard about from Mike, one of the biggest shortages is actually in respiratory techs. First, you need ventilators to save anyone, and then you need enough respiratory therapists to be able to treat these patients. So one of the reasons it's so important to be easy to use and simple to integrate is that we need to make these respiratory therapists able to treat more patients than they used to. A respiratory therapist in normal conditions is treating 6 patients. Under coronavirus times, they're treating more than 24 patients at a time. We need to make our product easy enough to use so that anyone can pick it up, so that the respiratory therapist can be on the most critical patients, can be supporting a much larger staff of ventilator operators. There's only 155,000 registered respiratory therapists in the US, and that's just not enough for the time we see. Our product's currently going through the testing phase of the FDA approval process, going for emergency use authorization. Right on the backside of that, we're going to get the 510(k) approval, which allows our product to exist in the market even after the coronavirus pandemic is settled. We don't see this as a short-term play. This is a long-term problem that should have been dealt with years ago, and we're building a company to stick around and to solve this problem now and for the future. We put together a nonprofit to do this. It's been amazing for us so far. It meant that we were able to bring on people as volunteers. We could spool up quickly without any conversations of equity split. It's allowed us to bring in working capital from everyone who's touched the project. But we still need more. We need more minds. We need more money, and we need more connections. So if anyone watching this podcast or broadcast has either a connection that can help us, some knowledge that you want to share with the team, or the ability to share some money with the project and allow us to get out into the world, go visit theventilatorproject.org. You can certainly send me an email address, or an email. My address is at the bottom of the page, tyler@theventilatorproject.org. We're out here to make a difference, and we made a nonprofit to make sure that what you heard from Mike doesn't happen again, that we can make something, and we can make an entity with its only focus being to make something good for the world. And we can do that and scale in that image. So if anyone out there can help us accomplish that goal, come step up and be a part of the mission. Thanks, guys. So I guess I have a question on the screen. I can dive in on that. So the first question is, what are some of the biggest challenges we faced so far with the Ventilator Project, and how did we overcome them? And what would we say to the problem solvers stepping up like us? I think some of the biggest challenges we've overcome are understanding what we don't know and making sure that we put ourselves, or what we can't know, and making sure we put ourselves in a position to react. When we look at the ecosystem of supply chain in the world right now, we not only know that there's major constrictions in medical supply chains and that there's major gluts in adjacent supply chains, but we also know that that is likely going through a massive bullwhip effect and will revert and change under our feet as we go. So we have been building out our manufacturing to accommodate drastic changes in the space and accommodate major adaptations so that we can react quickly and not get ourselves caught into the next supply chain shift. And to anyone who's out there solving a problem, I would just ask that they find people to help. The more people we can get working together, the better. I love what Mike's been doing with Covent. He actually reached out and helped us get some connections that were transformative for us. I think that there are plenty of projects that are similar to ours that need help in a multitude of ways. So don't be afraid to figure out what you don't know and reach out to someone else. We're all trying to solve the same problems, and it's going to take way more than one entity to make the problem go away.
Yeah, that's a great way to think, Tyler, definitely. So quickly, before I bring up David's next question, he was actually asking if he could get a copy of your slides.
Yeah, I can. I'll share with Chris exactly what I presented, and we can go from
Yeah,
there.
any of the presenters who share them with me, I'll put them on our blog, and you can look for them soon. We'll announce it in the newsletter and all of that kind of thing. But let me show David's question here.
Yeah, so ventilators cost $25,000 to $50,000, and one of the things we wanted to focus on in the last few weeks is, as we brought on product managers to do customer studies and market analysis, is figuring out what ventilators should cost. At the end of the day, a ventilator should not be a cheap device. It shouldn't cost less than your phone in your pocket. It's a life-saving piece of equipment. But they also shouldn't cost $25,000 to $50,000. So we spent a lot of time working with respiratory therapists, with doctors, and with administrators in hospitals to find a price point that matched their needs so that we could work that into the product. And we found that price point looks to be $5,000 per unit. And as we go and continue to have these user studies and work with hospitals, we'll continue to dial that in to find the correct price point that can allow us as a civilization to make sure this doesn't happen again. As a nonprofit, increasing price doesn't always mean making more margin. To us, it allows us to carry those profits to places in the world that don't need it, that can't afford the price tag. And I think that that's an important part of the mission that we can provide to the world.
All right, well, thanks so much for sharing with us today, Tyler, and we look forward to hearing more about your work.
Thank you, guys, and please reach out to me with any questions, or Chris will help you get in contact with me if you missed my email address. But it's as simple as going to our website at theventilatorproject.org and finding a way to donate time, money, or connections, and share any of our social, because that helps too. Thank you, guys.
Perfect, thank you. All right, let me just rearrange things here for a second. All right, please welcome Tiff LaRue.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Chris. I think I'm just gonna start by echoing what most said before. Thank you very much to Boston New Technology Network, to you, Chris, Tom, Chuck, for your time and for putting this event together. I think it's great to see initiatives from all the community in those very hard times. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if that works. Okay, looks like it's fine. So hello everyone, hello dear Boston community. My name is Tiff and I am in charge of sales here at Toucan. We have been in the market for 6 years, working with more than 130 customers over Europe and the US. And today and over the past few weeks, because of what has been happening, we decided to use our technology, which is a data storytelling platform, to help anyone, you, me, really anyone, to better navigate through the COVID-19 situation. So please bear with me as I'm about to reveal how you can save time and spare frustration on a daily basis. All right. Do you recognize these maps? I'm sure a lot of you do. These have been done by Johns Hopkins University. And I don't know about you, but for the past 6 to 8 weeks, all I've been focusing on are these numbers that keeps going up and up and up. But every time and every day after looking at these, I would ask myself the same question. So what, right? We have more death, it's terrible. We have more cases, it's terrible. But what are the impacts of this to me as a citizen living in this world? And what I would ask myself every day is, how can I not spend time and waste time looking for information? There is so much information out there. And so the whole point is trying to not spend too much time doing that. And also I want to avoid frustration, because as I said before, I cannot make sense of the situation just looking at the map. So the real question is, how can I get a clear, instant, and consolidated picture of the world situation today? Well, imagine an online place that would gather all main COVID-19 related information that you need to understand to make sense of the situation automatically. A place that will be a single source of truth to help you save time in your research and spare you frustration on a daily basis. Imagine a place just like the Situation Room in the White House, but instead you are the one in control. Well, I want to introduce you to the online World Situation Room by Toucan and our partner Cash Story. We try to think of it as your online COVID-19 application that helps you navigate through the information so that every morning in 5 minutes, you make sense of what's happening. Really try to picture it. It's like 8:55 a.m. You're right about to start your day, either job hunting or looking for your upcoming meetings, and you want to understand, how is COVID-19 impacting my world today? Well, the great thing is that here, in full autonomy, I am the one writing my own story, my own outline. So I can select, for instance, the US here, and I can have in 30 seconds this dashboard that gives me a snapshot of the situation. Total cases confirmed, total death, and double checking. Looks like I have a few minutes more before my first meeting. All right, let's, for instance, look at a step-by-step analysis. And as you will see, on my own, in full autonomy, I can access the different information, different visuals that helps me understand in a very user-friendly way what's happening. Now, I'm going to pause here for a second because I can sense what some of you might think. All right, Tiff, this sounds absolutely great, like great visual, but this is nothing more than what Job Hopkins is putting online. Sure, it looks prettier, but you know, it's the same information. Well, quite a sneaky comment out there. And what I would answer to that is that what we want to avoid here is the so what effect. Because now, if I want to understand what are the economical impact of the situation, I don't need to go outside of my application. I keep writing my story and I look for another chapter. So what are the impact on the economy? So I select that chapters, and here I can have a look at the impact on the markets, on the stock exchange, and on the currency. And here the idea is really to have from one single place all main COVID-19 related application that can help you make sense of the global situation in 5 minutes. So really, this is what we call data storytelling, to help you write your own outline and have all that information in one place. But again, don't take my word for it. Like, my call to action for you would be to go ahead and use actually the Situation Room. This is a free online tool, and I will share it with Chris and maybe in the comments if you want to access the link. So feel free to use it and see how you can spare time and spare frustration on a day-to-day basis. Thank you for your time, everyone, and welcoming any questions.
Thank you so much, Tiff. Let's hope that some questions will come in a moment here. I don't see any new yet, so please get them in real quick if you can. And Tiff, is this the same link we've been sharing so far?
Yeah, it's the one you have on
Okay.
the website.
So we do have the event link on all of these broadcasts. If you just go to the actual broadcast post, the link is there and you can find all the information if you haven't seen it yet. But we do have it in all of our newsletters, and it's on our website as well on topvirusinfo.com. We do have a question. Here we go.
Thank you for your question. I might imagine that you're familiar with visualization tools. That's true that there are a lot of visualization tools out there. And to come back to the concept of data storytelling, It's really in the way you layer information. So what we've done, and we've used the context of COVID-19, but when we talk about data storytelling, it's really trying to focus on the end user. So like as a non-technical person, for instance, like how would you best comprehend the information? And based on research from scientists like Jeffrey here from Stanford, for instance, or Edward Tufts, you can only focus on so much information at a time. So that's why, like, first, basically, if we take again that concept of COVID-19, like you have this like 30-second attention dashboard, which is a little bit like the cover of the book, let's say. And only if you have more time than 30 seconds, then you can start digging into the chapters of the book. And maybe if you've noticed while I showed some of the information, is basically you have every time one information per screen. And that's really also the concept of data storytelling, is that we help people make sense of the data by focusing on just one information at a time. So that's really like the concept of storytelling that we have embedded in our technology, basically.
Thank you, Tiff. I don't see any new questions quite yet. Someone did ask about the slides. We will be sharing whatever slides are available, if you can make these available, Tiff.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you a lot, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Why don't you tell us just a little bit about how you see world situation evolving before you go?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't hear.
Yeah, how do you see the world situation evolving? Do you have plans for future phases, or?
You mean regarding the information within
your technology?
Oh yeah, it's so basically based on our technology. Like today, we have I would say like like this like storytelling platform that we use like depending on like different contexts. So we are always like open to suggestions. So like if I take this application for instance, like we plan on adding like more sources of information about like demographic impacts, for instance, or environments. And in the next, like a couple, I would say like weeks or months, like we are going to add like even more collaborative features. So here it's an open application. So like we have reduced the number of applications, but like the aim is really to open people to have people like to share data between each other, to send each other emails and notifications. So that it's really like not only something you can see, but something you can action also as data.
Okay, awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing world situation evolve, and we'll keep an eye on it on a daily basis.
Thank you.
So thanks, Tiff. Yep, see you soon. All right, give us a moment for our next speaker here. We close things down. All right. Hey, please welcome Brian Ho. Take it away.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, this is Brian Huff, and I'm from the Corner Tracker team. And yeah, Chris, thank you so much for putting this event together. It's amazing just hearing all these projects and all these inspiring leaders. So I'm excited to play a small role sort of in this fight against COVID, and I'm just really thrilled that we all get to do this together. Not under the best circumstances, but sort of play our roles. And Chris, I just requested to share my screen. So hopefully that can work. All right, awesome. Cool. Can you still see the slides? Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm from the Corner Tracker team, and my name is Brian. I'm the UI UX lead. So I've been helping a lot with the product development, product roadmap, visualizations, and then working with our development team. So I'm going to be focusing on using open source for Crisis. And obviously, I think just open source lends itself to working in a decentralized way. So I'll sort of get into what that's looked like tangibly for our application, and then sort of how we've built our team and what we're doing. So just to sort of preface this, I haven't actually updated these numbers for some weeks now, and it just is very scary just how many cases globally are growing, especially in the US. Cases continue to rise, and US deaths, global deaths continue to rise. So a lot of what stemmed from Corona Tracker was really just a LinkedIn post, and I'll get into that later, but we really just sort of used social media to band together, and we wanted to do something about everything that was going on. So that's kind of how this started. So we had a bunch of meetings with there was like an ER doctor, a couple pulmonary care specialists, a lot of the people that are on our advisory board. Those were our initial meetings. We wanted to meet with medical practitioners. And when I say we, this was really like 3 people initially at the beginning of March. And I have a timeline later in the presentation that can kind of go through our tangible steps, but it was really just a few people. We set up some meetings with some doctors that we knew, sort of wanted to ask, like, if you were to build an app or you to build software, we have the capacity, we have a growing team of people, how can we help? So we devised Corona Tracker. So it's sort of in 3 parts, a symptom tracker and a health monitor for users so they can log their symptoms. There's an education and reinforcement-based learning component through flashcards and quizzes. So users can learn about COVID facts and understand really about the virus and sort of cut down on disinformation. And then also our app, sort of on top of that, it's built on Blockstack, which is a blockchain platform, and it provides users with data ownership and identity decentralization. So that's something that we thought in a crisis would be really important. So very simply, this is sort of the timeline of what we've been able to build. It started from a LinkedIn post. Our project organizer, Anthony, was the one who kind of put a call out on meetup groups. LinkedIn sort of used Discord to create a community. And then we really just got into building our app and building our sort of our full stack application, if you will. So that led to Corona Tracker on the right, and you can sort of dive in. So open source broadly, right? So it's a way for people to unite and come together and build an application or software app, basically a product. And what really lends itself to a crisis, right? We're all working remotely, we're all working from home. So we used, GitHub, we used a lot of virtual tools to help build our application. And I think open source is uniquely tethered to working in a crisis because it allows a lot of transparency and it's verifiable. So you can see really what's happening minute to minute for the application. And it also has a level of accountability, right? So we're all contributing to the same project and we can see what's going on at the same time. So I think open source lends itself really to working in a crisis. So overall, this is basically a wireframe or an architecture map of how our app operates. So we use blockchain, we use AWS, MongoDB, we use React for the front end. And this is sort of the UI of how our app works and how it operates, really leveraging blockchain and decentralized data. We want it to be very easy for the user to onboard and use, but then also ensure that their data is being protected and they sort of have ownership of the information that they're providing for themselves. And just to give a little bit of a scope of what we've been able to do, which is kind of wild, a little bit crazy. So within the span of a month, we've been able to operate and create this application. Typically apps take months to build and user test and all of that, but we were able to do that in a month, which is a tribute to over 200, almost actually 300 people now in our Discord group. We had around over 40 contributors on our GitHub repository. So we've been able to really scale from doing small user tests, building up our GitHub repository. We won 3 global hackathons, which was very exciting. They provided a lot of the funding and the capital that's helped us build this application, keep it online. And we owe a lot of the work to our advisory board of health medical experts that are on the ground working on this. So broadly, our application provides a number of key features, but one of the benefits to having it being open source is that we can continue to grow it, continue to create more features as we go along. But that's sort of, I think, the interoperability aspect that makes open source very exciting, but also very practical for helping in a public health crisis like this. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of what the application looks like. We have symptom tracking, so we have different parts. We also recently added a behavioral health section, which we thought was relevant for our users. And also the quizzes, it looks a little bit different now in the application, but wanted to incentivize people to use the app and to learn about COVID, because education definitely helps pave the way for people to at least come to terms with what's going on. Then they can feel like they understand how to address it. So I feel like in terms of the presentation, this is probably the slide that I'm most proud of our team in terms of being able to build something like this. And I hope that this sort of can give you a toolkit for your own use if you're looking to create an application. And I sort of coined this as the 2020 open source tech stack, but you have your community building aspect. So we use LinkedIn, Meetup, Discord, and Drive, Google Drive. We use Zoom, Meet, FaceTime for weekly communications. Our tech stack, we use Material UI and React for the front end, and then Mongo, DB, AWS, and Blockstack for our backends. And then obviously all of our code's been housed in GitHub. So that's been great for us to work, do pull requests, and update it. We used Photoshop and Figma for design. And then for our marketing collateral, we used PowerPoint, Squarespace, Hootsuite. I think one of the things that I'm most proud of for our project is being able to use very accessible, recognizable software technologies, a lot of them that are free and widely available, to build something at scale. And I do want to just close with sort of going through tangibly what I see right now and where I think our application can help. So healthcare, my family works in healthcare, so I get to hear a lot of the space. And in terms of where it's moving much more holistically. So using different types of medicine, different types of treatments, not just thinking of one solution, but thinking of multiple ways to address the same problem. And also interoperability. There's a lot of and obviously from the guests and the speakers before me, talking about innovative technologies and ways to scale using tech with Internet of Things, and there's AI and there's data science. So I think that there's going to be a great place for open source to roll into that, specifically supporting interoperability of parts. Our application, we now are talking with some major hospitals and some doctors, and we're trying to see how we can create some user tests and get this into the hands of people that can actually benefit from the software. But also as they are seeing it, they're finding suggestions and things that they say, oh, can you add this? Or can you combine this feature? So and then that becomes issues on our GitHub repository and more work for us, but we're excited to be a part of this and in helping to build more. So I think that open source really is a good use case for working in a crisis. And sort of just to close out, thank you, first of all, for listening to Corona Tracker. And a lot of people in this community have been very supportive of us. So we're very grateful for that. And yeah, we're really just looking for health professionals, people that could utilize our skills and our talents. We now are a community over 300. We have around 40 to 45 contributors on our GitHub repository. So very active in the open source blockchain space and very passionate about addressing the coronavirus. So I'm very excited to just work with so many great people and make a difference and help. So
awesome. Thank you, Brian.
Sure.
Well, we do have a couple questions coming in. Let me put one up for you.
Oh, yeah. So, Sophia, great question. So we launched our beta on April 17th. So we've been doing a lot of user testing. We've been trying to work with some doctors to get some sort of tangible features and understand sort of our market fit of where the app comes into play. I think we're looking sort of towards in the next couple weeks coming out of beta and then launching our application. We haven't commercialized it just quite yet. We've been trying to figure out what the best way is to do that. So honestly, if anyone has any suggestions or ways that they think this software could apply, like I'm more than happy to connect. And I'm on LinkedIn. Also, our email and our website's on there too. But yeah, just we've been trying to make sure that the application is as buttoned up as possible and provides as much valued features as we think the users would want from it.
All right, well, thanks a lot, Brian. We're actually out of time again. So we look forward to, again, the evolution of Corona Tracker, and keep in touch, all right?
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Chris.
Yep. Give us just a moment to transition here. Let's see, we should have Reggie coming up. Let me see if this works. Reggie, can you hear me?
I can hear you guys
Hey.
just fine. How's it going?
Great. Welcome, Reginald Swift, please.
All right, thank you. I'm about to share my screen. You should see a request coming in right now. Can you see it? Let me try this again. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you guys today. I only have a couple slides because I only want to make a couple points as to why I'm here and kind of really explain what we're working on and how we're impacting the landscape of COVID-19 and how it has changed all of our sense of well-being and from soup to nuts, and the ability to be able to have care in between each and every single one of us. So hi, my name is Reginald Swift. I am the founder CEO of Rubit's Life Sciences, an emerging small company born 4 years ago, really geared towards biotech and life science innovations and research. And we are also on the White House Task Force for the COVID-19 response. And one of the items that we've been working on as far as to date has been our platform StarSense. It is initially a clinical trial management platform, which is very robust to manage patient care from the whole continuum from beginning to end. And within that same scope or that same identity, we want to be sure that whenever there's a new product innovation that's already out on the market, many of the challenges that we seem to have in healthcare and life sciences is the ability for people to have the reach, to have the access, to have ways to be able to gain access into clinical trials. So we designed and developed a virtual solution to be able to enable groups, cultures, many different people with many different backgrounds into clinical trials, especially for the ones with COVID-related symptoms. As we are seeing more and more of the vaccine development effort take place across the globe, we want to be able to support their efforts globally to be able to also have the impact analysis and assessment from how it affects every type of ethnicity differently. As we know, ever since COVID-19 hit our shores in America back in January, February, we knew the healthcare system is a little bit fractured at the moment. That's kind of putting it mildly. Right now, what we understand is that many people of color and minority communities have a deficiency in being able to have adequate care and healthcare equity within that same landscape. The challenge is it ranges from a number of different variables, from access to care, from actually getting informed and educated, from actually getting the opportunity for managed care, throughout the whole life cycle. So many of the innovations that you see now as far as vaccines happen to deal with people that are had the ability to have access into clinical trials. So for example, when we know that the vaccines will be released and developed, many of the people who are impacted severely and adversely may not have the chance to see the light of day from the vaccine side. So we created this platform specifically to target help for COVID-related illnesses and tracking COVID-related illnesses. And we call that StarSense. So going into the second slide. So StarSense is a whole ecosystem. It's not just an app. It's not just a survey. It's a whole ecosystem that's managing and utilizing intelligent data and analytics and AI and even incorporating blockchain techniques to improve health outcomes throughout the whole patient monitoring and engagement journey. So, for example, let's just say that you are interested in, or let's just say that you are now afflicted with COVID. You have now experienced some symptoms and you don't have a way to track it. There are some apps out there that allow you to track it, but with what we're building, you can be able to track your symptoms as well as inform your patient provider or the nearest patient provider services that can help manage your care throughout the whole life cycle. And that's taken in sense many different components, from adaptability of nuanced devices such as your Apple Watch, blood pressure monitors, weight scales, glucose monitors, pulse oximeters, thermometers, spirometers, and many other components as well. So imagine the ability to have, reporting your symptoms and then identifying a way to also have these types of devices to manage your symptoms at the same time, while having predictive and proactive surveys coming from providers to say, are you okay today? Are you going to be all right? I saw that your pulse oximeter, your blood level is below 80%. Do you need managed care right now, immediately? Have you experienced these types of symptoms? And because of what we've experienced from a demographic standpoint, we're incorporating the features in which patients actually want to be managed and cared for from a remote setting. So imagine you're putting your symptoms in and it's actually getting to someone, reading it from the back end, like your hospital provider or even someone in the near vicinity, and say, please monitor your symptoms for the next 48 hours. If it persists or if it worsens, we will call 911 on your behalf and have someone at your door. And at the front end, the ability for the patients to have a highly interactive survey pool that can be able to track and manage your location from a population health format helps give clarity to many of the patient groups, as well as the public health groups, as well as the CDC and even the federal government, the ability to understand from a growth standpoint. As you saw earlier, you saw the Johns Hopkins map. What if we were able to predict in some certain communities how it will progress and proactively, impact patients even worse than before? We know that in certain neighborhoods, they have more access than others. In certain others, we should be able to predict the ones who are worse off, how we can enable services, enable policies, enable differentiators to have a whole system care platform for these types of groups. And it starts with this. It starts with having a patient being fully managed, and we give this to the patient for free, but we are utilizing it within the clinical trial space. And as we are focusing in getting the patients into clinical trials for COVID and being able to track their influenza-like illnesses or COVID-like illnesses to confirm with the hospital providers, we're enabling that aspect to have the patients proactively monitor their health all throughout the whole life cycle. Thank you.
Thanks, Reggie. Let's see if we get some questions coming in here. Give people just a moment. Well, why don't you start off by just telling us a little bit more about what your kind of next steps are, or next major, initiatives are?
Absolutely. So right now, many people may have heard that the CDC is actually creating is deploying a vaccine as we speak, or they're actually in the development efforts of creating a vaccine. We're actually plugged into the VRC Center, the Virological Resource Center of the CDC, to be able to then take that platform, utilize our analytics and data to then map out from the US, map to determine how best we can proactively get more and more patients involved in the clinical trial, so we can test more patients throughout the whole life cycle to determine how many vaccines will actually be efficacious towards the whole population as well, rather than just a specific subset. So we're really trying to manage that focus innately as we speak, but as we grow and look towards being able to support many other programs, we'll be able to have a prediction model and analysis from identifying the worst types of infectious disease, like the ones we worked on with Ebola, leishmaniasis, MRSA, Creutzfeldt-Jakob, and many others, to determine proactively which ones we should be afraid of, which ones we need to look for before it impacts us like COVID did right now.
Yeah, definitely. Some pretty urgent work ahead of you. Here's a question.
Thank you, Tom, for the question. No, it is not similar to WebMD in any capacity whatsoever. But I thank you for the question, because we're much more proactive in nature, because we have patients actively monitor their symptoms through our own tools, and it's engaging with the healthcare providers specifically because of their health records. So it's innately specified for the patients, not towards a broad general base. So hopefully that helps.
And before we wrap up, how about any predictions about what's going to happen this year?
So as we know it, I believe that and don't take my word for it, always listen to the experts, that by the time October rolls around, we'll be able to be in a good sense to say we can start imagining the economy to open up again. I know right now we're in May, and it's we're starting to see the light come out. However, we still know from the R0 number, meaning the infectious disease rate infected with the populations, it's still too high to consider reopening everything immediately. It would kind of be a drastic rollout where it would actually create a second wave. So let's just say if we started opening up the movie theaters, bowling alleys, gyms, everything at the bars, there could be a even surge that could be worse than the first. And usually with infectious disease, that is always the case. So we know that with the plans that are in action right now, we believe this is actually as robust as it could get. And as long as we're on a path to do robust testing, we can actually be ahead of the curve by October and open up the economy again.
Wow, that'll be awesome. Yeah, let's hope for that and work towards that. And we appreciate your work, of course. So thanks again for sharing, Reggie.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure with the procedures panel. Thank you.
Yeah, take care. All right, let's see if we can transition quick here. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Okay. Hey, please welcome my good friend, Steve Vilkas.
That is right. I am your good friend. How good of a friend am I? I still have my BNT hat.
Sweet.
That's from BNT 100, actually. So, hey, everybody. Good to meet you. My name is Steve Vilkas. I'm a communications specialist with COVID-19, specifically with a bunch of different operations. But tonight I'm going to talk to you about one in particular, a special little initiative started by John Hargrave over at Media Shower called COCO. So what I'm gonna start out with is our little intro, and then I'm gonna explain a little bit more about the specifics of effective communications and how we're utilizing effective communication strategy to help with the pandemic, to combat the pandemic. So just give me a second to share my screen. Thank you. And it's a tough act to follow Reggie Swift, so I'm gonna try real hard here, but best of luck. Wish me luck. Okay, here we go. Let's get into this. And I'm going to try and give me 1 second. It's kind of a difficult thing to do. Not really. Here we go. Hopefully you can all hear this.
During a pandemic, it's important to communicate in a way that's helpful and truthful. It's something all of us can do. That's why we developed COCO. COCO stands for Coronavirus Communication, and it's your hub for getting helpful, truthful information to the world. COVID-19 is a virus. It travels from one person to another. Spreads like a virus. Know what else spreads from one person to another? Information. When everyone shares an idea, what do we call it? Going viral. Or in this case, antiviral. When we share good information, we slow the spread of the virus and speed the spread of helpful, truthful information. And this acts like a magnet that attracts even more people. Our mission is to get these messages to spread faster than the virus. Coco is a messaging toolkit with ready-made tweets, images, and even memes that you're free to use, remix, and share. Get creative. Good communication is how we band together as humans. We're one human species, and if we work together, we will win. Working together, we can literally save the world. Spread the word, not the germ. Coco.
Coco. Wonderful. I'm going to stop sharing that in a second. There's a bunch of other stuff that I have to show you, but I want to get back over here. Okay, so that is our little introductory video designed to be short and sweet and simple. So yeah, it's all about effective communication. So what does that look like? Because information is everywhere. The question is, what kind of information are we consuming? What kind of intelligence is being put out there? Is it credible? Is it misinformation? Is it disinformation? You know, is it that information? But seriously, so part of what Coco has done is not just a messaging toolkit. It's really expanded to encompass so much more than just an initiative of memes and funny little graphics and stuff. We have been able to assemble a coalition, many of whom are here tonight. And it really speaks to the power of human potential, the power of the human spirit, the power that comes from building consensus among like-minded people to form a coalition of basically, we want COVID-19 to be eradicated. So some other stuff I'm going to share with you. Give me a moment. Show you some proof of work, as we say in the blockchain world. 1 second. Okay, what else do we have here to show you? Application window, give me a second. I'm just going to switch this over. So here's an example of somebody, give me 1 second, here.
Yes, possible.
Okay.
This is Rhythm Mirza.
That's Rhythm Mirza.
Reminding you to take this message and pass it on. Spread the word, not the germ.
Yes, it's an example of, and then we
when
have,
we all work together,
thank you.
We get through the.
We have an example of other partners who we've gone with, like Fight Pandemics. We have Safe Paths from MIT. We have the roundups that I've been doing. So all of these things, essentially, all of these things represent different little initiatives that are spurned out of.
See, but we can't see it. You're trying to show us your screen. We can't see it.
Oh, so you didn't see the second stuff I showed?
No, if you want to go back, you can.
Sure.
Somehow
Yeah, no problem. Let me try that one more time.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Share screen. Yeah, it's a little wonky to start with, by the way, so it's kind of like a second class. All right, I'm going to share this. Can you see that? Can anybody see that? 1 second. All right. Perfect. So let's go back to LinkedIn for a second. Let's go back to Rita.
Coronavirus as quickly as
Let's
possible.
go
We
again.
all work together. We get through the coronavirus as quickly as possible. This is Rhythm Mirza, your fellow human, reminding you to take this message and pass it on. Spread the word, not the germ.
There you go. So again, that's Rita.
When
Rita has been one of our most effective communication specialists, quite unlike myself today, but we're trying. And so basically, yeah, we've been able to deploy all these different little operations. We've been able to help with PPE. We've been able to help with getting people the resources that they need, using effective communication and combating, false information. Like, please, whatever you do, don't take a hairdryer, put it under your nose, and expect to be cured of COVID-19. It's not going to happen. Please don't drink bleach. Please don't drink arsenic. I mean, I say this and people are like, oh, well, obviously, but no, because depending upon how something is presented, it could seem rather compelling, almost accurate, but it isn't. You have to be very careful. Zignal Labs, who we've also had conversations with, advises people to carefully validate, verify, and curate, give me 1 second, validate, verify, and curate all information that they receive related to COVID-19. So that means if you see something and it seems suspicious, probably is. And another thing that we've been able to do is we've been able to band together and just come together for good causes. Like I mentioned Fight Pandemics, I mentioned a lot of other places. It's an example of two things again.
great intelligence gathering in terms of like vetting out the bad stuff, but also promoting the good stuff. And then the thoughtful amplification of both information. And what does that information lead to? It often leads to great outcomes and operations. So I'm going to stop talking for a bit, toss it back to you, Chris. So let's see if we have any questions.
Hey, thanks a lot, Steve.
No worries.
Yeah, your work with Cocoa is pretty amazing, and
it is.
It's quite unique as well. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your recent win? Didn't you get some support for Cocoa?
We did. So basically, we got a $15,000 grant from Citizens Bank based upon our work. Basically, I also failed to mention why Cocoa was formed. I mean, it is to combat misinformation, disinformation, but like, how did that even like happen? So John Hargrave and the folks at Media Shower were going through social media. They noticed a lot of stuff was like just really getting wonky out there. So they decided to do something about it. They combined forces. They started putting the word out there. I got recruited into it. And before I knew it, I was also doing stuff as a comm specialist for other like-minded places because, again, it's a spirit of cooperation, essentially. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate all of your dot connecting work. What is dot connecting, Steve?
Dot connecting is basically the process by which I and a lot of other people like myself, like you, for instance, we try to make, meaningful connections in life, but it also factors into business. It factors into all the aspects. Like, you want to try to forge meaningful relationships because relationship building, I mean, let's look at this as a great example, COVID-19, right? We have Mike Grandinetti, we have Tyler Mantle, we have Sylvia Tower coming up after me, we had Reggie just now. All these people, they're all part of this team tonight. We're all really showing the power of connection as a proof of work. So, indeed.
Awesome. So we do actually have a question coming in.
So first of all, let's give a shout out to Tom McDonough. Tom McDonough is a neighborhood business manager with the city of Boston. I often tag him in our Global Strong little COVID-19 roundups because when it comes to things like the Boston Area Mask Initiative, which is one of our greatest victories in terms of Cocoa, because Cocoa was able to amplify Boston Area Mask Initiative, all these little things. My greatest victory being with Cocoa was being able to find my voice and use it to help people with COVID-19. So, but on a like organizational level, I would say that it happened when Dan Magoon, who's the co-founder of Mass Fallen Heroes, he made a post about wanting to help out with PPE because he's a master of a resource acquisition, being a United States Marine, serving many years. And so we were able to get in touch with him. We started talking to a bunch of other folks, and we were able to solve some aspect of the PPE solution, which back then was a little wonky. We still got a long way to go when it comes to stopping misinformation. I would say that we can't stop it all, but we can stop most of it by being good agents of communication. Hey, I know you. That's Coach. That's Coach AK. All right. How and where is that? So basically, we have a multifaceted process. Again, a lot of us have experience in blockchain, so trust and authenticity is of the utmost importance. So that is something that from the very beginning, we work with a number of different other organizations to again, it's all about validating, verifying, and curating. We've developed this messaging toolkit in-house, with the memes and all the other stuff, but when we amplify something, exactly, it's coming out at a breakneck pace. So we try to stay on top of it as much as possible. And the thing is, we vet things carefully, and we only promote things that can be proven using things we just use a number of different tools, some of which, obviously it's a high level of complexity and stuff, but it's just, we would never share anything that hasn't been put through the utmost rigors. I'll say that. I would personally never share anything that hasn't been validated 100,000 million billion %, because then we wouldn't be doing our job.
Sounds good, Steve. Thanks so much for participating today and your great work with Coco and all of your many endeavors.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Sounds good. You're just gonna take me off? How do I do that?
Yeah. Thank you. All right, give us a second to transition here, and please welcome Sylvia Tower.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. I'll put up my presentation. Should be sharing right now. And welcome and thank you to everybody who has stayed on this event. We are going a little bit over, so I really appreciate your participation and staying on to listen to all of these wonderful stories that our presenters have been telling so far. And of course, echoing what the others before have said, thank you so much, Chris, Chuck, Tom, everybody who is making this possible. So I'll be presenting Noma Yoga. A little bit about me, I'm a product manager at a SaaS company here in Boston, but that's not what I'm here to talk about tonight. And I'm also not going to talk about yoga. Even though the presentation is called Noma Yoga, what this presentation is really about is the process of discovering what each single person in this audience is uniquely qualified to do to help during the current pandemic. So when the whole pandemic started about 2 months ago, so beginning of March, I was noticing the world was like literally crumbling around me. A lot of people losing their jobs, unemployment soared towards one of the highest rates in history, trillions of dollars of supply chain disruption, issues of domestic violence. It really looked like chaos. And all that I could think of is like, how am I uniquely qualified to do something? I'm not a healthcare worker. It really didn't feel like I could do anything to help. So I felt stuck and I was sitting at my house and really working my full-time job regularly. But then I was wondering, there has to be something more that I can do to give. So then what I realized is that I was not the only one in this situation because everybody felt the need to give. So one beautiful thing that happened during COVID is that we're really all coming together. People are volunteering more, people are donating. And as we can see from this fantastic lineup of speakers that went before me, there are a whole bunch of people that have dug deep inside them, found the way that they are uniquely qualified to give, and started all of these fantastic projects in less than 2 months. So my mission is, how can I help as many people as possible, including every single one of you in this audience, do the same? And the presentation isn't working. Okay. So what's happening right now in society is that we're experiencing a paradigm shift, both in how we interact with each other and in the way we approach healthcare. Let's take a look at some of these shifts. So shift number one, we really need to all be empowered to give back to our communities as much as possible. So what we do at Noma Yoga is we teach yoga classes. And what we do during the yoga classes is we take some time at the beginning and at the end of class to talk about every way that people in the community are giving back, and also to give an opportunity for anybody who is leading a project or a nonprofit to ask for volunteers, to ask for funds. And people are coming to the realization that there is so much more that they can do that they simply had not thought about until they started talking about it in a community. The second shift that is happening right now in society is that our healthcare is extremely overburdened, and every single one of us must absolutely practice preventive healthcare. So there's a lot of very sad statistics, people that are suffering, especially of mental health diseases, that do not have access to hospital care right now. They have to stay at home. Our healthcare system cannot take in any more patients. And what a lot of us don't know is that there's some very simple things that we can do to improve our physical and mental health, and also reverse a lot of the conditions that normally would warrant going to the hospital. So for example, why don't we all stop for a moment, close our eyes, and take a very deep breath. Inhaling and exhaling completely. Notice how even the action of taking this one simple breath has actually made you feel much lighter, much better. Breathing can be a way to increase the flow of oxygen to every single part of your body, which actually has some quite big consequences in making people feel better and in strengthening the immune system. And shift number three is that another side effect of COVID-19 is that a lot of us are feeling social isolation due to social distancing. And as I was saying, a positive consequence of that is that a lot of people are in a position to give back. They just need help with channeling this giving back. They need a little bit of guidance. So in light of these three things, one thing that I started thinking about is how can we bring these things together and help people create community, while at the same time addressing a lot of the concerns that they have in their lives and being able to give back, feeling empowered to give back. And one thing that I realized is that now more than ever, there are so many technology platforms. There is so much that we have available to spin up a nonprofit super quickly. There are all kinds of tools for online fundraising. There's Facebook Live for broadcasting, yoga classes where people can come together and like practice and have a moment of peace out of their day. There's also a lot of things that can be done through Zoom, which is a tool that has exploded lately. And they're very simple platforms, pretty much accessible to everyone, that allow us to have an exponential impact with everything that we're doing. As some of the people before have demonstrated with more complex technologies, mainly used for development, the reality is that even if you have something very simple to give, something very simple to teach, you can do it through Zoom, through Facebook, through Weebly. We have an infinite amount of tools available. So what do we do? How do we actually do it? So during our yoga classes, we start by talking about how people have given back. We encourage people to connect. So for example, we had people come from nonprofits asking to fundraise, asking to donate, and they immediately got donations. We also had other people asking for volunteers, and any kind of skill will be useful. And this is something that I cannot stress enough. Whatever skill you have cultivated in your life is useful in some way during this pandemic. And then the last thing is that there are no barriers to entry to the class. So anybody who feels like they need to join a community, they need to reconnect with their body, improve their physical health, and anybody who is looking for a way to give and contribute positively to society can join. No matter whether, so finances are not an issue at all. No matter what you have to give, you can simply show up and take a class with us. Now, how did I find out what I was uniquely qualified to do? So same as Steve, who's a journalist and went right before me, was uniquely qualified to present information in a reliable way, same as others have also spoken about storytelling or building ventilators. I really went through this process of thinking, well, what do I have to give? I used to practice with a couple of people at Olympic level for sailing, which means that I've worked a lot on this idea of a mind-body connection and how to help people improve their physical health. I'm also a certified yoga practitioner, and I have a large network of like-minded individuals, lots of 9-to-5 workers, and lots of entrepreneurs, especially in the Boston area. And especially, I have a desk job just like most of the people on this call, so I can definitely relate to the feeling of isolation, of working remotely, of not being able to breathe well enough, take enough breaths throughout the day, being able to stretch. And this is really something that I felt I was uniquely qualified to give to people. So if I've spiked your interest, if you feel that you have some unique way of giving back, but you still don't know quite how, you can join our community and ask questions. Come take a yoga class, learn to breathe, relax, open up your body, and also get inspired for what you are uniquely qualified to do to give back to the community. Especially for people who have full-time jobs, I highly encourage you to join the 30-minute yoga class, 9 to 9:30 a.m., Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And the reason is because we go through quick stretches that specifically address all of the parts of your body that get stuck in a chair when you're working. So specifically your necks, your hips, and then simply very often throughout the workday, people just forget to breathe. And that's a quick reminder at the beginning of the day that your breath is always there for you. A lot of people are suffering from depression and anxiety. A lot of people are engaging in more shallow breathing patterns, but it really doesn't have to be that way. And that's part of what we're discovering together as a community. So that was my presentation. Thank you all for joining, for listening.
Thank you, Sylvia. That was awesome. Yeah, I think everyone could use more yoga. You know, I need to get into your classes. What's the schedule again?
So the schedule, I'll go back to it. It's so it's Monday, Wednesday. I hope it's here. No, wrong slide. Oops. The schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Never mind. I'll get there eventually. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9. Now everybody's going to get a headache because that's what happens with Prezzies very often. I really apologize. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 9 to 9:30 is the extra stretch to prepare for your workday. So it's a bunch of people who are all full-time workers sitting at desks, coding 16 hours a day, who get together to stretch our forearms, our fingers, our necks. And then we have 2 sessions twice a week, Tuesday evening and here it is. And Tuesday evening and also on a Saturday afternoon, where you can come and, first of all, there's more time to network with the community. But also you can come and ask questions about any like postural thing, breathing, anything that you think you can improve about your posture during COVID-19. Since a lot of us spend time sitting and in front of a screen. And yes, I will share the link to sign up to the yoga classes. It's all at nomayoga.com. Sorry, I was anticipating the question from AK.
Oops. Okay. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions coming through. Thanks for the great comments. A lot of positive comments coming through as well anyway. But anyway, I want to thank you, Sylvia, for participating, and I hope to join a class very soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you again for having me. This was great. I'm so impressed with all of the speakers. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Sylvia. Bye now.
Bye.
All right, there we go. And let me just close that. And please welcome Jay Sapovitz, the man responsible for this awesome backdrop right behind me. Hey, Jay.
Hi, Chris. Share audio, share screen. How you doing tonight? Hi, everybody. Can you see my screen?
Hold on, Jay. I don't see it yet. You may need to click share.
Yeah, I did.
And you have to select which window you want to share, I think. Okay.
Got it? Yes, good?
Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Jay Sapovitz. I know many of you, and I'm glad to be here. I appreciate the time to share today. My company, Inc. Stores, is a custom apparel and promotional products firm. We're based out in Mansfield, Mass., and we've been working with BNT for a while now. When, this COVID epidemic or pandemic hit, and more often, and more so when we were told we were quote unquote non-essential, the concept that, I was really struck with was now what? A few years ago, we had pivoted our business from one-offs and online to really focus on corporate development, and almost 90% of our sales came from corporations. And on March 18th, that effectively stopped in place. And the reality for us is that there's no blueprint for remaining relevant when you're declared irrelevant. So we really had to try to figure out, what was going to happen. No idea how long this was going to last. And we needed a message to communicate. So on April 6th, about 2 weeks after we were asked by the governor to close, we launched the Community Project, which is a support campaign for local community-based businesses. So the concept behind it is, we wanted to try to do something where folks could put, and these are local businesses, could put money in their pocket, right? The second piece is we wanted to give business owners a platform to be able to reach out to their customers, because like us, there wasn't really a story to tell. You couldn't call your customers and, there was nothing to say. We didn't want to be Papa Gino's, sending emails, we're here for you. Like, what? It didn't make sense to us. And we were looking for a way to, throughout this concept, enhance our reputation. So community is really simple. It's a gray t-shirt with a local business that agrees to participate in marketing the t-shirt. It's got the event logo on the sleeve, which is the community logo that I shared to start this, and the business design logo or name on the front. So the types of companies that have been really receptive to this have been hair and nail salons, restaurants, not-for-profits, music studios, dance studios, gyms, bakeries, artists, and sports leagues. We give, the shirts are all $19, and $10 of that goes directly back to the business. So the business chooses to participate. They have no risk. They have no cost. They market the t-shirt to their audience on social media and using their email distribution. It gives a tangible give back to someone who wants to support the business but may not want to just donate to them, or if it's a restaurant, they don't want to eat out but still wants to show their support. And, as big as anything, expands their audience and gives them a platform to get visibility to their logo or their brand, because all of these businesses have been driving traffic to the community project social media, Ink Store social media, and this one website where everything is up for sale. We partnered with Joe Cardona, the long snapper for the New England Patriots. He did a t-shirt that the proceeds were donated to the Fisher House, which helps military families in need. This is a little bit of an old slide. We've donated over $25,000 to local business. We've given back, not donated, given back as part of this program, and counting. Every day, we have almost 230 businesses that are part of the program, over 1,000 unique customers, and we've shipped orders at this point to 34 different states, which is super cool. What's next is we've started to ship all of the shirts. Obviously, we've been closed, but we've about a week ago we started printing and shipping, and we are going to have a post and win. So when people get their shirts, we're looking to have even more excitement generated for the business and some advertising by people going online and posting it. My store has put up cash prizes, so both the people who received the shirts and bought them and the businesses can win, some promotional value by doing it. And as far as why I wanted to be on this call tonight and video was really just to share with you this project, which has been so uplifting for the folks involved, and see if there's any businesses that you think would benefit by being part of the community program. So that is the community project from Ink Stores. And I appreciate the opportunity to share tonight. And I will stop sharing my screen, and hi, here I am.
Hey, Jay. Yeah, thank you so much. The community is an awesome program, and it's amazing how many companies you've been able to get involved and supporting or benefiting from the program. So I commend you for that. And I'd like to ask if anyone has questions, so please post them now. But while we're waiting for any questions to come in, I just want to recognize Jay as a great supporter of BNT. He's made a lot of signs for us. This one right here in the back. Actually have Founder Sagas as a new brand or podcast and webcast that'll be launching this summer as well. So that's there, and continuing to collaborate with Jay on various things. And Jay also works with all size companies. So check out Inked Stores. Since Jay didn't really promote himself, I want to make sure you guys know about that. We don't have any more questions coming in, but do you want to tell us just any more about the future of Community, or if you plan to maybe do another version again or anything like that?
Well, so we're in the middle of it now. Like I said, we're starting to ship now. I think that if you just, very simple, if you want to go to inkedstores.com, you can see the link to the site. It's inkedstores.com. You can nominate a business to participate in it, or if it's your business, you can participate in it. And like I said, it's the beauty of it has been just giving folks hope and a reason to actually communicate. That's, one of the things that had been lost in this entire concept of being non-essential is that there's really, how do you go away as a business for 2 months and then all of a sudden come back? Like, how do you do that? And I didn't know how to do that. And I didn't want to go away, but I didn't want to also be, like I said, not to pick on Papagino's, but when a Papagino sends me an email and says they're here for me, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I tried to be there. I tried to do something that could really be there for folks, both financially and then also, from a support standpoint. And, we've got some businesses that have raised $1,000. I mean, they're paying their phone bill for 3 months or paying their electricity for 3 months. But bigger than that, they've accumulated customers that are going to wear that brand out and about, and they've really been able to see who their like real diehards. It's not friends, it's not family, it's customers that are their real diehard supporters and the people who love them. And it's just been, it's been great to see those names come across as a business of who bought, and you like get excited about it. So it's been fun.
So Jay, we have Tom just asking about, how to contact you, where you're located.
So it's Jay at Inks, Jay at Inked Stores, INKDSTORES.com, Jay at Inked Stores. And you can, very, very findable. And
And your store is in Mansfield. I don't know if you mentioned that, but
our store is in Mansfield, and fingers crossed Charlie doesn't have anything up his sleeves and we'll be able to get back in there. And we don't really have that many people in the store at a time anyway, but we'll be able to get back in there on the 18th and start grinding out the work and more than anything, feeling the purpose. I think that's really the biggest piece that's been lost in all of this is, Sylvia just spoke about it. The mental health piece is, it's very difficult to be not doing what you want to be doing relative to the work aspect. So anyway, hey, thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and enjoy the rest of the presentations.
Thank you, Jay. Talk soon. All right, let me just bring in our next presenter here. And please welcome Beth Porter.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for the people who are still on for patiently waiting until the end for this last two presenters. And I'll try to go as quickly as I can because I know people are probably interested in getting to their dinner hour. But I wanted to share a little bit about what we're doing at RIF. My name is Beth Porter. I'm the CEO and co-founder of RIF Analytics. We're an MIT startup that really got going quite a long time ago to try to address how people work online together. Obviously, we did not anticipate anything that came just recently, but we were already interested in this problem and already interested in trying to find new ways for people to be effective when they're working, especially when they're working collaboratively. It's one thing to attend a broadcast event on Zoom and listen either passively or ask a few questions. It's another thing to work independently at home. But when you're trying to work in small teams together online, it can be quite challenging. And a lot of the adjustments that people have been making recently have been about that. So I'll talk about a few of those things, talk about what we're doing, and then take any questions at the end. So let me just get to my presentation here and share that. I think people can see that. I hope they can see it. Okay, fantastic. So, often use graphic, whatever. I'll go quickly through this part. So because of this, we're sort of all doing this, and this may look very familiar to people, helping their kids with their homework, their dog crawls on their lap. There's a lot of disruptive activity happening in the home. And even if you're an experienced, work from homer, if I can use that phrase, there's a significant set of new challenges that are happening right now because of the sheer volume and pervasiveness of home work. And, some unique challenges are rising that compound the challenges of working at home, particularly if you're not familiar with it. We're socially disconnected. As I mentioned before, team productivity is a huge issue. If you're balancing a lot of the things that are happening in the home with your work, you're probably losing individual focus at times. Some people, I've heard some reports, and completely wildly contrary reports actually, that, I'm doing so much more work than ever before. And that probably means you don't have children or pets or older people at the house who might need your care and assistance. So there's a work-life balance issue, of course. And as Chuck noted to me, he said, day parts dissolve. There's no conception of time. That's why I put this clock up here. The work week has 3 days: yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And that does feel very much like how it feel, how things are going for a lot of us who, and notwithstanding the previous speaker who is describing not being able to work, and all the people who've either been furloughed, who had to shut down their businesses, or who have actually lost their jobs. For those of us who can work and are white collar workers, the work is challenging. So I want to talk a little bit about a misconception when it comes to sort of communication mediums. When you're trying to replicate the work that you've done in an office at home, and you're using communication tools, I think there's a common misconception that one type of communication really translates exactly to the next one. These are all different animals: the phone, video, email, chat, comments inside of documents. Every single one of them has different things that they're good at doing, and not one of them can replace or perfectly replicate the other. So in a face-to-face meeting, one of the things that you get that's really important is social presence. There is this sense of being there with the other person. You are literally physically there, and the medium is speech for the most part, but you're picking up on all kinds of other things that are happening, whether you're completely aware of it or it's part of your peripheral awareness. When you're in an online environment and you're working remotely, the thing that fosters is freedom, right? Is the ability to work from anywhere at any time, still be a participant, even if you can't be physically present, even if the experience is degraded. So they both have benefits, and they aren't perfect replicas of one another. Right now, what we're experiencing is that a lot of meetings really suck, and that they actually reinforce a set of behaviors that may already be happening in meetings that you have in the office. And now you have this whole day of them. And if you're in a company that has this mute or no camera culture, you're just sitting there waiting for the whole thing to end. You might be multitasking. Maybe you are like the woman sitting on the couch and trying to help her kids with their homework at the same time. It's not an ideal environment. So you may be wondering, well, maybe we could just go back to phone. If I'm turning off my video and I'm also even muting, maybe the phone was a better idea in the first place, and I should just go back to that. The thing is about the phone, if you're having a small meeting or just a conversation with another person, there is actually less information to process on a phone call. So you can have the freedom to be mobile. My husband does an entire day of one-on-one meetings on Thursdays, which sounds really difficult. And he started walking for a lot of those meetings because he just finds the cognitive load of being on videos one after the other is very hard, and he can get just as much from his one-on-ones with his team if he's walking and using his phone. But there are some detractors, right? It's hard to build rapport. There's no non-verbal cues. Lots of people just don't talk when there's a phone conference or a teleconference. They don't say anything. They don't do anything. And so most findings for teleconferencing is that there's low participation. There's a handful of people who speak, or maybe even just one person who speaks, and nobody else does. Video, obviously, we see people, right? One of the things that's been kind of a nice social aspect of working with your colleagues in the video medium is that you're like seeing the insides of their houses, you're meeting their kids and their spouse and their dogs and their cats, and it's kind of nice, right? It really personalizes the experience of being in a video call. And, it does kind of mimic in-person meetings, and it becomes more sort of personal and human, but it's not the same, right? It's still not the same as being in person. And there've been a lot of articles online talking about kind of this, right? It's, you can't actually spend the whole day on video calls. It's really exhausting, it's stressful, and it creates a lot of cognitive load. And the reason why it's all these things, exhausting, stressful, and causing cognitive load, is because when you're on a video, your brain is trying to fill in all the other things. All of that sensory feedback that you get when you're in video, when you're in an in-person meeting, is absent in that two-dimensional video world, and there's no peripheral vision. Like, you can't pick up on cues, you can't get other extra, sensory input, and you're going to try to fill that in with just the two senses that you have, which is sight and sound, and the rest of it's just very difficult. One article I read recently, and it wasn't written recently, but I just was kind of curious about it. I used to teach high school math, and one of the things that was sort of a fun effect was that I could really sense students who are disruptive in the back of the classroom, and I could turn suddenly and sort of catch them in a disruptive moment. That sort of whole idea of teachers having eyes in the back of their head, that is a real thing. There is this sense of peripheral sensing, and that is a phenomenon that a lot of us, actually, whether we're aware of it or not, take advantage of when we have in-person encounters with other people, and it helps us fill in all that stuff. But I like to think of things in a positive way, and sometimes crisis really brings opportunity as well as, obviously creating lots of challenges for all of us. We see real opportunity here. So one thing we have an opportunity to do right now is actually use the medium that we have, right, which is video, which is the primary medium that people are using, and actually try to make ourselves a little bit smarter. We have to be smarter about how we use the medium, but then it can give us a lot back. So, for example, and we can't really, like, our old habits aren't going to work. Like, if we just try to make exactly what we were doing in person, what we do on video, we're not going to learn anything. So one of the things is that you have to measure what you're doing. One of the things that we do at RIF is we actually measure low-level interactions, and we try to help people improve through feedback. And these two things really go together, right? If you're measuring something and you can look at it, that can help you give meaningful feedback to people about what's happening. So, for example, something you can do without having any fancy software is you can do polling. And polling is actually a really important way, even if it's just a finger poll, it's like pulse polls as they're called, and a way to get a gauge of how people are going, how things are going in meetings can really change the way that people perceive them and the way they interact when they're in them. And one of the things that's also true about that is that perception is faulty. So if you perceive that something is happening and then you ask people what's happening, the likelihood that those are going to be incongruous is very high. Those are not always going to match. And so measuring things and then giving people feedback by this immediacy of the measurement is really important aspect of doing better in online meetings. The other thing is this other dichotomy, which is if you have purpose in the meeting and it's not just, hey, we're getting together because that's what we do. Now, you can have meetings like that. That's a social event. But if you want to get together and actually use the time that you have online as efficiently and as with purpose, you will find that they actually end up being briefer, and people appreciate that. One of the things that's a really simple technique to try is just to make all your meetings by default a half an hour. Never schedule an hour-long meeting. Never. Never schedule a meeting that's more than 6 people, and everybody will thank you. I haven't had a chance to talk much about RIF. I'll just very briefly say that we do this. We measure meetings. We give people feedback. Part of what we're trying to do is help improve communication, but the other thing we're trying to do is also help people perform better when they're working together. Our collaboration tools are used in remote teams and in online learning. And we'd love for you to help us get better at delivering this product to our customers. And we invite you to sign up for our free self-service video app, which is available today. And we made that free as soon as the COVID sort of struck, we decided to make it free for everybody. So we just did that earlier this month.
That's all awesome, Beth. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I know you have so much to share. You actually went over the full 10 minutes, but let's still take a question from Steve. I'm going to put it up for you.
Okay. Yeah, so I think engagement exercises can help, but even just being really clear about the agenda. So the question is about creating engagement in remote meetings. When we work in learning, we definitely have extremely structured work for people to do. It's not just getting together and say, hey, you should have a Zoom call with your classmates because it's a fun thing. Fine, do that, but that's not what the learning. So we have structured peer-to-peer learning. It has everybody has role types. Everybody has a task to complete that's complex. We don't believe in having very routine things get done in online meetings. You can use other mediums for that. So you should really be there for complex job that you need other people to complete with you, and everything else you can save for other mediums that don't require that real engagement like you get in a meeting. So it can help, and it can help prime people for future meetings, but you don't need them. If you're in a rhythm, the work should guide the meetings, and the pulse pulling is really just to keep people on task. Oh, Zoom burnout. Just don't have long meetings. I mean, there's certainly techniques for trying to make sure that you don't have too many of them. But as I was mentioning before, one of the techniques is to vary it. Variation is huge, right? If you're going to have a one-on-one meeting, you may just want to go to phone for those, and try to save yourself a little bit. It's hard. I think, as Sylvia was talking about, this stuff is really tiring and stressful. I mean, it's just as tiring and stressful to be working more than ever before and having to feel like the day never ends and to work all the time as it is maybe not to have a job at all. These are both, extremes of the same spectrum of work and not work. And so, you need to give yourself a break.
Super. Well, thanks so much for sharing all that, Beth. And we do have your free service listed on topvirusinfo.com as a great resource. So we hope people will continue to check it out, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, take care. All right, folks, finally, we are going to be able to bring in our last presenter. Okay, and please welcome Richard Marshall. Hey, Richard.
Thanks, Chris. Let's see. How are we doing? We can see that?
Yeah, looks good. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody. My name is Richard Marshall. I'm VP Business Development with the company CareClever, and we are the makers of the companion robot Cutie. Now, I want you to stop for a minute and imagine that this week you'd had one conversation. And then imagine next week that you have two conversations. And then maybe the week after that, you have only one conversation again. Now, it sounds and feels terrible, but this is the lived experience of millions and millions of seniors in the US, in Europe, in Japan, in China. So you can see why the Chief Medical Officer of AARP considers loneliness, which leads to a downward spiral to dependency way too soon for our seniors. Why she considers this to be the health equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And if you take this narrative and you aggregate upwards, you can see why this is just such an enormous moral and economic cost for society. And everything I've told you so far was the case before COVID, was the case the end of last year, was the case January 2020. And I'm sure you're all really aware that COVID is disproportionately, unfortunately, affecting some of those more vulnerable in our society, and that most certainly includes our seniors. And in fact, I think we've got to brace ourselves and prepare for repeated bouts of this really intense isolation for our seniors over the next couple of years. And, you know, while we may be talking about opening up, and quite rightly, we do need to open at some stage, you know, this is going to be a continuing problem that's not going to go away with a magic opening of the economy. So put simply, over the next couple of years, we are going to provide thousands of years of additional connectedness and community and quality living for those most vulnerable, our seniors. And we just so happen to do that with a companion robot we call Cutie. And Cutie is an autonomously mobile, voice, touch-controlled companion robot, which is designed 100% for this particular application, for connecting seniors to other people. And I really want to stress that it's really important that our approach is very much focused on connecting individuals to other individuals. So you can see on the screen here some recent photos. In fact, these were taken in the last few weeks, and this is in France. So our first market, I'm based in Boston here, but our first market is in France, and there we've made our devices available to nursing homes in the last basically 6 weeks in response to the very, very severe lockdown that occurred in France. And here the photos show you seniors enjoying real-time connection with family and friends and loved ones. And also we host daily real-time events, so hosted events. And there's an example here of self-massage for seniors who again are isolated in these facilities. So it's the only device that we know of that's specifically targeted 100% over the last 3.5 years, has been developed solely for this particular use case. And so we're happy to be making some little difference, but there's a lot more work that certainly needs to be done. And the USA is our target for the back end of 2020. And so I'd like to leave you with a couple of takeaways. That is, this is the only robotic companion designed specifically for senior isolation, and we've been able to make some response due to the COVID crisis. And then I'll finally leave you with one ask for everybody listening and watching, which is that from here through the rest of 2020, we are seeking partner organizations in the US, whether that's home health organizations or people who operate senior living facilities, to start rolling out QT for pilots back end of 2020. And I really appreciate your time. And I know I'm the last person between you and dinner, so thanks a lot.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, that's super. Well, it's great that you are in a great spot to serve more customers at this point in this pandemic we're in, and obviously we hope things get better soon, but we also have to be realistic, and the world really has changed. It's not going to go back the way it was. What is one of the major changes that you've seen that you maybe just haven't touched on here, and any other kind of insights you have?
Yeah, look, I think it's, to be frank, I think that Chris, as you say, the world has kind of woken up to an issue that was obviously, and as I said, was there all along. But it was like a light switch went off, to be frank, on March the 16th in our first market, which was France. And that's when Monsieur Macron shut the country down. I mean, radically, they just went, bam, that's it. And that immediately changed everything. And we were inundated with approaches from nursing homes in France who were just desperate. I mean, they needed ways to connect people. So, in the last number of weeks, it sounds very trivial, but we've had to work out how to get these devices in this isolation time, physically get these devices to these facilities, protocols on where to meet the people, how to wipe the device down. You know, when you think about it, every step has kind of been things that perhaps we might have thought would take us 12 months. You know, the team has had to work out in 2 weeks, basically.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see any more. Oh, wait, sorry. We just had one more question come in. Let me put that up for you.
Oh, hi, thank you, Tom or Thomas. So we have two models. I mean, we're selling to facilities for around 5,000 US for a out and out sale, and then in some circumstances we have a rental or lease model, which is $250 to $300 a month, depending on the use case. Oh, look, you know, there's going to be variability. I mean, at the end of the day, the question is, individual or corporate consumers, are the costs different? I mean, we found we have customers in France who are individuals in their homes who are using QT, and for them, it has been a month-to-month robot as a service model. I mean, clearly with corporate customers, we'd much prefer to sell outright because, you know, frankly, their cost of capital is going to be much lower than a relatively smaller company like us. So it makes sense for them to capitalize. Can't hear you, Chris.
Sorry, guys. I just wanted to thank Richard. Thanks so much for sharing today. And we wish you all the best of luck with QT, and we look forward to seeing how you evolve as well. Final thought on how people should engage now?
In terms of us, please reach out to me. My email address was on the slides. It's not up now, but you know, we're very, very keen to work with partners in the US and make a difference this year.
Okay, awesome, Richard. Yeah, we will collect all the slides and get them out to people. They'll be on our blog, hopefully in the next few days. So thanks again, Richard.
All right, thanks, Chris.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thank you all for staying this long or watching this long. As we wrap up, I just wanted to encourage everyone to join our BNT 113 LinkedIn event, where you can learn more about and connect with the presenters as well as fellow attendees. And if you're hiring, seeking funding, or need other help, please post it in that LinkedIn event group. And we emailed the link to everybody, but you can contact me if you can't find it. BNT's next event is going to be virtual again, a health tech startup showcase on June 15th, and then we have a fintech and blockchain startup showcase planned virtually for July 15th. And since we can't hear claps, if anyone who's out there, just wrap this up with a comment if you want, or a like, or a love, or anything like that. We won't be able to hear the claps this time because we're virtual, but we appreciate everyone who has attended and participated, and all of these amazing experts and leaders who have shared today. And you can rewatch this video on Boston New Technology's Facebook page or YouTube channel. And thank you all again for coming. We hope to see you again for future events. Take care.